Welcome back to Yahoo Finance Live, everyone. The feud between Apple and Facebook parent company Meta is heating up. Apple shutting down claims this week that it benefited from recent iOS privacy changes, which cost Meta an estimated $10 billion in losses from its ad business. Well, joining us now with more on this is Yahoo Finance's Dan Howley. Dan, what do we need to know about this?
Yeah, essentially, this is a report that's coming out just ahead of Meta's own report, which is expected tomorrow, as well as Apple's report, which is coming later in the week. And really what it does is essentially say that Apple has not benefited from that app tracking transparency feature that it had introduced in iOS 14.5. Now, just a little background reminder, app tracking transparency, or we'll just call it ATT at this point, allows users to decide whether or not they want their apps to track them across other services. So, for instance, you visit a website about a bicycle or looking for a bicycle, that is then fed into apps, and they're able to then serve you ads within apps for bikes, bike chains, things along those lines. Apple introduced that feature. Most people seem to be adopting it, and so that's put a huge dent into Facebook's own advertising revenue. They said that they're expecting to lose about $10 billion worth of revenue in 2022 alone as a result of this. We also saw some other companies, namely Snap, bring this up, but in its most recent earnings report, there was zero mention of iOS or app tracking transparency, unlike its prior quarter where it had pointed that out as a headwind. So this really seems to be Apple coming out ahead of Meta's earnings to basically say, look, you may hear Meta say that we're benefiting from this, that this is drawing business to us, to our own ad business. Apple, with this report from a third party, by the way, Apple funded, but a third party report from a Columbia Business School professor, they are not getting that $10 billion that Facebook says it's losing. Instead, it's going to other sources. They point to Walmart, Amazon, TikTok, and the like. So Apple clearly coming out ahead to just say, look, we're not the problem here. It's got to be Meta that needs to change up their processes.
Okay, so when we think about this, because Snap as well, we thought that this would be brought up in their earnings if it was impacting other social media companies' ability to advertise and see revenue on top of that. Why the disparity? Why the difference, perhaps?
It seems that because Facebook is so widespread as far as the different tools that it uses, right? When you go to a website and it's got a Facebook bug in it, it's essentially Facebook able to see that you visited that site. Then when you go on to the Facebook app, they can use that data to then inform what kind of ads they should provide to you in the Facebook app itself. They also are able to aggregate data from other sources as well. Now, that's third-party tracking. Apple said that's a big no-no now. You can only use first-party tracking. It benefits the likes of TikTok, Snap, especially Google, because they draw the vast majority of their information of users from what you search for. So
I was going to ask you, Jared Blicker was just breaking down some earnings. What about the YouTube ad revenue? Has that seen impact?
No, surprisingly, they said that it's not actually a problem at all. They said that it wasn't a major issue for them and that it essentially left them scot-free to a degree. But it really was Meta that seemed to be hammered, continues to be hammered. You've seen their stock drop precipitously, not just because of the ATT issue, but also because of the fact that user growth is kind of flattening out, as we've seen. They also, by the way, and we'll call it Facebook Blue, or what's referred to as Facebook Blue, the main Facebook app, they lost users there. So not really great signs for them, and they need to start changing things up. And that may be why they started calling themselves Meta.
Well, serious consideration, especially as we move through some of these companies that are highly dependent on their advertising revenues and the impact that some of these privacy changes also make to them more desperate than others, as we've been breaking down here. Yahoo Finance's own Dan Howley, tech reporter. Appreciate it.